Hey everyone, Tony Winston here, Jazz Piano College. Classical piano workshop today, working out of this book, Bach, Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1. And this is the fifth Prelude and Fugue in the key of D major. And it's also in the Suzuki Piano Method, Book 7. So anybody maybe that's working in that book might enjoy this video. I don't know. So first of all, my credentials, very weak. I've studied classical piano with a lady who has a master's degree from Juilliard, and I studied with her for 5 or 6 years, just every other week or so. And, she taught me a lot about technique and also a lot about, interpreting the score and really paying attention to the music and making sure you get all the details that the composer wrote in. But so I'm going to do a lot of these Bach pieces in the future from time to time. And I wanted to start with this one because there's a lot of controversy about the fugue and the rhythm that's there. But let's start with the prelude first. And I remember practicing this, and I had done it like about 100 times, and I took it to my teacher and said, I still don't have it. She says, do it another 100. So it takes a lot of practice. Let's take a look at the right hand first. One problem I always had was like down here around measure, what is it? Let's say measure 6. Let's start there. And then in measure 7, and measure 8, I had a hard time like keeping that connected and sounding good and hitting the right notes. And I probably played this piece 300 or 400 times before it dawned on me. Just listen to Andre Schiff play it. Now, he's one of my favorite piano players. And by the way, let me also plug another channel. It's Josh Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, I believe. I believe that's his name. I'll post a link to it. He really is a very qualified classical pianist, and I would say his videos are excellent. So if you're looking for really first-class instruction, that's one place to get it. And of course, studying with somebody live, in person, is really the best way to, absorb the knowledge that maybe you're looking for. Anyhow, so I listened to Andre Schiff, and I was so surprised because, I'm trying to play the thing real legato, I'm going like... not the left hand, but the right hand. And when I got to those measures I was just talking about with all the leaps and things, that one in particular, and down here towards the bottom of the page, I listened to Andre Schiff, and he doesn't play it that way. He like slightly detaches every note. So he gets the tempo like this. He's getting ready to play it. This is from a live recording. You can find it on YouTube. And he plays it kind of detached. Yeah. And I swear, I just listened to him for like 5 seconds, and I said, I got to try that. And I played the piece, and really, I did better on it that very first try than I think I'd ever played it. Now, I'm not going to perform the piece for you because, I get nervous and I'll undoubtedly fuck it up. But I just want to help you kind of learn the piece. Start with the right hand. It is very difficult to memorize the music of Bach because no two measures are the same. I think the best way to really perform Bach is with the music. But if you memorize it first, then you're not staring at every note and panicking and making sure, trying to follow everything. You've got it memorized already. The music is just there kind of for security. You're glancing at it maybe once in a while. And also when you're doing a, complicated piece like a fugue, you can be looking at the voices that you want to bring out, and you can be experimenting with the things that you want to bring out. Because, when you start experimenting and making one hand louder than the other, pretty soon your muscle memory will fail you and you screw up. But if you have the music there in front of you, you can improvise or experiment with different ideas without, getting lost. Practicing with stops, always a good idea. And you can stop every 4 notes, like, or the way I was doing it, about 8 notes. And the best place usually to stop is on the very first note of a group. But if it's a complicated passage, you can plan your stops to be on any particular note. Let's go down there to measure 7. So I'm stopping on the first note, but you might try stopping on a different note. All right, I found that to be more difficult, and if it's more difficult, it's probably doing you some good. All right, and maybe on the 4th note. And I'm connecting all the notes, pretty much. But the slightly detached notes will give you a more consistent sound through the piece, because some of these leaps and some of these measures are pretty awkward. And if you're trying to connect it all together, there's going to be a few spots where it's just going to sound a little uneven. Another thing now to be careful of, and I'm going to go down here to about measure 15, is your thumb, okay? Sometimes that thumb has to get down there and hit a low note. You don't want to bang on it. You want to be sure that you're keeping a consistent sound. So, and look how far I had to reach in there. All right. Oh, sorry. This measure right here, 17, is one I still haven't done enough work on. Now, if I try to do that legato, I did it. But like I say, the detached approach works well. The left hand, it's detached. Even when you're practicing, or especially when you're practicing slowly, don't make it too short. So. Okay. Let's get over to some of the trickier spots here. Measure 27. All right, so it's a kind of a weird fingering, and I wrote my 2 in there because that's the finger you're going to be on when you start this measure. So if you're practicing just measure 27, make sure you're starting with the right finger, all right, because you just came from this. So you got to be on 2. Oops. And then you got to put your thumb under here. And if you're detaching the notes a little bit, no problem. Right? If you're trying to connect, that's quite a jump from there. So maybe have your arm kind of in a good angle before you even get there. All right. Pretty good. Now, another thing, too, is you'll see that in this song, there's a real pattern, where some notes are like this, and other ones are like upside down, and other ones are this way, and a lot like this. Whatever it is. So, have your arm up a little bit so you can get a good sound up on your 5th or 4th finger, whatever you're using up there. Like that. Find a good measure for that. Well, right at the beginning. Right there. right? If you have your arm all down and your wrist down like this, you're not going to be able to play this piece very well. So keep good hand position. All right, then we get to measure 29 and 30. And here's where the left hand all of a sudden has to come alive and play a rather difficult passage here. And if your hands aren't big enough to hold this note the whole way, don't worry about it, all right? If Bach played it on the little clavichord, that note died away pretty quick anyway. But so the fingering I use, and I have an injured left hand. I've had surgery for trigger finger here, and when I was in the 5th grade, I got this huge scar down here, so I have no muscle to bring that finger in. I have only about half feeling in that finger. So, I'm a bit of a hack when it comes to classical piano, but it's my love, so here I am. All right, so left hand. So I can hang on to that note for dear life. But if you can't, and if your finger slips off of it, like mine sometimes does, the hell with it. Just let it go. Now there's a fingering in the book here, which is 3, which is pretty good, and 4. So for you normal people, that might be a better fingering than the one that I'm doing. Practicing. And right there you're letting go of that note because it's only a whole note. You don't have to hold it past that point. I like 4 down here. They've got 5 in the book, I think. I can't tell, I've crossed it out. And let's talk a little bit about the ending. Come on, Tony. All right. Did you notice I left out this note? I just can't reach it. I don't know what else to do. Nobody's going to miss it. And then it says adagio in my book, but everybody plays this very fast, right? All right, I've written in little crescendos there. And then Andre Schiff plays some crazy stuff here, like... But you see, Andre Schiff, he's not a jazz pianist. He wishes he was, but he's not. And so, he finds a little place to improvise here. And I suppose, he's a very smart guy. He knows more about this music than I ever will. Maybe that was typical in Bach's day. But for me, I don't need to get my improvisation rocks off here. I can just play. And I used the pedal. Fugue. Some other interesting ideas now about Bach. Andre Schiff says, do not play Bach with the pedal. It will blur the beautiful interplay of the lines. Well, that's all great for him to say because he's playing a 9-foot piano in a huge hall with beautiful reverberation and the sound of the piano expands and echoes and reverberates throughout the room. But I'm in a little typical size room here, and there's no reverberation. Personally, I think using the pedal sparingly, only when appropriate or necessary, is okay. But I think there are many places in Bach where using the pedal is appropriate. I mean, you don't want to use it where it's going to blur everything. And, you've probably heard people using a lot of pedal with Bach. I disagree with that. But let's take a look at this fugue and look at some spots where maybe the pedal would be appropriate. I actually use it quite a bit. Of course, I wouldn't use it here. You know, that sounds like shit. But like these long notes, when you put the pedal down, you'll hear, you can't hear it on the video here, but I'll play the note and then put the pedal down, and you hear the sound get a little bit bigger. So when you're playing these beautiful chords, like let's take a look at right here. Right there, just to put the pedal down right there, gives you a bigger concert hall type of sound if you're in a small room. And then another pedal, and another pedal. Nothing here now. All right, now let's get to the controversy. The controversy is about the dotted eighth notes. Do you play it with a dot or a double dot? A dot is like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. All right, I'm not counting according to the time signature, but you know, making it easy. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. All right, double dot. 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a do. All right, so much more syncopated. You know, go on Facebook to the piano pedagogy group, and you can find an argument that lasts for days about this. But here's my opinion. Bach knew what the double dot was. He uses it over here in the piece. Someplace down here, there's a double dot on a chord. So if he wanted a double dot, he'd probably write a double dot. People say it's a French overture, so it's got to be played that way. But it doesn't sound like a French overture to me. It sounds like really a very tender, sensitive piece. My wife, for instance, she doesn't really like me to play this piece that much because, I don't know, it reminds her of something and she gets sad. And, I feel the same way about this piece. There's some moments in here, like right here, going into measure 8, where we're doing this. To me, that's a sad chord. All right, another spot over here on the second page. And right there, I just love this beautiful chord. It's very hard to hear because this has died away by the time you get there, unless you're playing it pretty fast. I can still hear it. Pedal, pedal, no pedal. All right, let's get back to the double dot thing. For one thing, what are you going to do here? Okay, that's how Andre Schiff plays it. And, maybe he's right. I don't know. So he does it with the double dot, which means this 16th note here is going to come on the very last 32nd note there. But then you get a spot like here in measure 9. There's no double dot there. I mean, if there was, you'd have to do it like this. That doesn't sound right. So, you've got this rhythm underneath those 16th notes. And to me, a sensitive, beautiful piece like this just sounds too nervous with all those double dots in there. So I don't do it that way. Okay. Let's look at the hardest spot over here. It would be measure 20, I believe. Okay, so the trill. I mean, you could do a real short one like. You gotta hold that note down. So let me talk a little bit too, and this is, maybe for Suzuki students that have never played a piece like this before. Let's bring in each subject here. I use my fourth finger because of my weird hand, but... All right, next subject. Now notice the subject starts there, but also one of the other voices is holding that note, so you're going to need to hold that down while you do this. And once you hit it again there, you got to hold it again. All right, so. And now you have a beautiful 3 voice. And here you add the 4th voice. All right, and it's in the soprano there, but you're once again holding the A down. Now we've got 4 voices. And we're back down to 3 again. Notice the rest underneath the left hand here. Okay, and let's take a look at the end here. All right, I will put the pedal down there, then another pedal, another pedal. But just imagine now, if you want to play this piece really fast and do the double dot, or even a medium tempo and do the double dot, that's fine, I really believe when you play Bach that you're constantly experimenting and looking for, different ways to play it or different ways to interpret it, different feelings that the piece might evoke. So, do it your way, of course. But if you do double dots, it sounds kind of cool. It's just not for me. And 2 and 1 and 2 and 2. All right, maybe put a low A in here, and possibly even a low D there, though I think that's getting a little too low, really. So maybe just... This is something I do. I'm coming in towards measure 21 and 22. So, for some unknown reason, I like the staccato there. I will be back to cover some more of these fugues and preludes, both in book 1 and book 2. I don't know all of them. I probably know about 15 out of in each book. Maybe not quite that many. I don't know. And I'm a huge fan of Bach. To me, anybody who can make that sound beautiful, they're okay in my book. And Bach really taught us how to accept harmony with a lot of dissonance and tension, and without Bach, there would be no flat 9 13 chords. That stuff wouldn't exist without Bach. So I'll see you again on Jazz Piano College and right back here on Classical Piano Workshop. I really appreciate the support I get on this channel. Bless you all, and I will see you again soon. Bye.